So I wake up this morning and I see people tweeting about Aaron Rodgers, this Instagram post. And my first thought is it was going to be a goodbye to Green Bay. That's what I figured when I see him posting all over the place. And instead it's these paragraphs of gratitude, of thanks. A couple of things confused me, though. One, I thought he and Shailene Woodley, is that how I say her name? Is that correct?
They're done.
But why did he talk about how much he loves her and how much she means to him? Didn't they just break up?
Yes, but
Which leads me to the next question then.
Okay.
Is he then tweeting on something?
Yes.
Because he then posted pictures as if he was saying goodbye with him and his teammates, with him and her. And it was a very odd thing about, listen, gratitude's great. Wonderful.
It was Gratitude Monday, by the way.
Wonderful.
And I'm so happy to be working with you guys, by the way.
And
I should have said this yesterday, and I really, when I saw Aaron's, his Instagram post and everything else, I was a little upset that I didn't do a little bit more yesterday for you guys.
Like what?
I don't know. Just thought I'd do something for you, but I didn't do it. And when I left here yesterday, I felt bad about that. Well, but then again, none of you guys brought it up to me. I
didn't know it was Gratitude Monday. But the point is, there are people going nuts saying this is like a goodbye to Green Bay. I don't take it as such at all. It's nothing more than him posting photos. But it does lend the question of, here we are now. We're a week removed from the Super Bowl. We're, heading towards March. And the question remains for teams, and this kind of will lead me into Deshaun Watson and Daniel Jones, too, in where we're at with the quarterback position in certain spots in the NFL as the league season, which is what, April? I wrote it down. It's more March 14th, I guess, is when free agency can begin.
That's when it starts, and bang, let's go. Here we go.
So at some
around
point,
the NHL trade deadline.
When do you think we get clarity on such things? I mean, we taking things like this into April and May?
I would say that Aaron Rodgers told the Green Bay Packers that he would make a decision relatively quickly because it's going to affect Davante Adams and his contract status, because Davante Adams does not want to be tagged.
Which is what the plans seem to be, though, right now.
That's what it feels like, right? But I would say that the quarterback stuff, from Russell Wilson to Deshaun Watson to Mason Rudolph to Daniel Jones to Aaron Rodgers to Tom Brady, I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on, and there's a lot of moving parts, and that there are going to be teams. I mean, I have a really weird feeling that San Francisco is going to be in play for one of these guys, whether it be, Aaron Rodgers wanting to get back to Northern California or Tom Brady wanting to get back to Northern California.
And a lot of people continue to say they don't think Brady's finished.
I knew that he was going to announce his retirement. That's why I bet you to $50 that Friday before
he comes back and plays this year. I get my $50 back.
I think he has not filed his retirement papers officially. So yes, you would get your $50 back. But right now, he did utter the words retirement. So we are assuming that he's retired. Now, your boy Bruce Arians came out yesterday, and he was screaming and yelling that, me and Tom got along great because there was this report that Tom wasn't happy with him and all this other stuff. I mean, it's like a soap opera.
Well, the NFL has become a 12-month a year now. It is a soap opera, and it's almost like the NBA. Now, the difference with the NBA and the NFL is the NBA, you can make the case, is more fun off the court most of the time than it is on the court. Because I don't think the product, as much as I love the Nets and love the NBA, I don't care for the regular season product. I just don't think it's great. I think it's much better in the playoffs. The NFL is great week in and week out, but my God, you take it off the field now, and it's like you wake up to things like this, and there are so many things to get to NFL-wise today, and we'll get to Juwan Howard in a little while as well, the baseball stuff. There's a lot going on, but there's so much NFL conversation on a random Tuesday in February that it's fascinating. And you just point out all the quarterbacks. To me, it almost feels like an unprecedented offseason in terms of quarterback movement that we might have with star names on the move. And then all of a sudden, if you're one of these new GMs, think of what you're walking into.
Yeah, like Joe Shane.
Exactly.
And you got to figure out your salary cap situation, and they want to see Daniel Jones because they really don't have an alternative. They financially they can't add. So they have to put all their eggs in that one basket for Daniel Jones and say, okay, let's see what now you can do with a third coaching staff, with another offensive coordinator, which is basically the wrong way to bring up a quarterback in this league. And how many times we've seen it and how many guys have failed. Now, the thing about Daniel Jones, and I think internally from the ownership standpoint, and I don't think a lot of the fans feel this way because they see a lot of turnovers, they see a lot of injuries, and they get frustrated with that. And one thing you could say about Eli Manning, he showed up for every game.
Yes.
And he knew how to take care of himself. But then again, they weren't asking him to run RPOs.
True.
Running around the corner into like 7 defensive linemen.
But let me ask you this, though, because I've heard a lot of that since the way the season ended for the Giants and the way he has been at quarterback. When you are that capable and that skilled, and he is as a guy, as a kid that can run, yet you're getting injured, it's really hard to dial that back, though, and to tell him to stay in the pocket because you're taking away one of his greatest strengths.
Well, you saw Joe Burrow towards the end of the season take a beating and stand in there and throw the ball accurately and get rid of it quickly. And it seemed like he and Zach Taylor just really, hit it in stride the last quarter of the season into the playoffs. I mean, you've been waiting for Daniel Jones. We saw a little bit of that his rookie year, and then there were flashes under Jason Garrett, and now comes Brian Daboll. And if he thinks he's going to turn him into Josh Allen or run the same type of plays as Josh Allen does, forget it. Josh Allen is a freak of an athlete. I mean, he's 6'5", 245 pounds, and he's got an incredible arm. He's got a sense about him on the field that Daniel Jones obviously doesn't have, because Daniel Jones, if he had more of it, he wouldn't get hurt. That's part of playing, the position is understanding, where the hits are coming from and how to get, protect yourself. But I feel bad for Daniel Jones, much like I felt bad for Sam Darnold. You bring kids here, you have all this hope and you have all this potential, and then you put them in 3 different systems, and what do you expect? And Daniel Jones is in a really weird spot because, like, the Giants have no alternative right now, and they're gonna go with him. But the likelihood of him being success long-term here now and getting a new contract with the Giants is virtually 1 to 5%, because guys in his situation have never panned out. And what I mean by that is where he is in his career, what his salary is, and what his next salary will be. And most likely he goes the way of, like a Mitch Trubisky or a Marcus Mariota. All this hope, all this, belief that he can do something special, and quite frankly, just doesn't make it for whatever reason. Part of it is the organization, as John Maris said. We screwed this guy, every which way we possibly could. And I know that they really like him because I know he is committed. Now that, like, if Kyler Murray were as committed as Daniel Jones, they may have already won a Super Bowl out there in Arizona. That's the knock against Kyler Murray, is that he is not committed, is that he is not the first guy in and the last guy out, which is what you have to be as a quarterback. And you could be a great athlete, and there are some unbelievable athletes at quarterback. And I just talked about one, Josh Allen. Josh Allen is the prime example of how to be a leader of a football team. Joe Burrow is a prime example of how to be a leader of a football team. And that's what they've been waiting for from Daniel Jones. And they've tried. Everybody can say whatever they want about Gettleman. You got to figure it. He made bad choices on some players that never panned out. But it wasn't because he didn't try. He tried
a lot of guys.
He drafted offensive linemen. He signed free agents. He signed wide receivers, cornerbacks, offensive linemen. He tried every which way to support Daniel Jones. The problem is there seems to be some sort of disconnect between the front office and the coaching staff, depending on who the coach was. And you can't do business that way. So this is why I think the Jets have got it right, at least right now on paper, because they got the general manager who hired the coach, and they seem like they're in sync. So they know what they're going to want. I'd like to think that that's the same thing with the Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen. It's going to be the same kind of sense where, the coach can walk into the general manager's office and say, okay, this is what we have to do. This is what I feel like we need. And the general manager is actually going to listen to the coach. Because sometimes in some buildings, those two guys never talk. And
that's amazing to me, given the way the sport is run.
Right, and that's a bad thing. Once you lose that cooperation between coach and general manager, man, your team is very rarely going to be successful. But anyway, to go back to Aaron Rodgers, I just think he was either high or smoking some weed, or had a few drinks, a few cocktails, was feeling a little bit melancholy, and it was Feel Good Monday, whatever the hell, Gratitude Monday. And he just wanted to put something out there to let everybody know that he actually is a human being.
Well, and he certainly got himself headlines because he has become the top story, and it was trending when I woke up. And like I said, my first thought was that a decision was made, and here we go with the NFL offseason already. So this is what I don't understand. So I was reading more into his contract situation. So the 2023 season's voided. This is now the last year of his deal, essentially.
At $46 million cap hit against the Green Bay Packers, and you can't do it.
But what I don't understand was, so this is it. So cutting or trading Rodgers would result in a dead cap hit of $26.8 million.
Would save
but
them
would
$20
also
million.
free up
$20 million.
Yeah.
So basically, because that's his salary. That's his salary for the year. $20 million. So the other $26 million is a carryover from his last contract and the signing bonus.
Okay.
So what happens here now? So this is why he kind of holds a little bit of the leverage here. Because he could say to Gutekunst, their general manager, look, I'm not changing my contract. My contract is staying. And if his contract stays, then that negatively impacts the rest of the roster. They need him to either redo his contract again, to take some of that money out of there so they can give it to Devontae Adams and keep those two together. So that's part of, in the NHL, it's a hard cap. In the NFL, it's a hard cap. I mean, you can get around some of it with some roster bonuses and re-signing bonuses and things of that nature, which is, I think, what they're trying to do in Green Bay. I mean, I think if Aaron Rodgers could work his way out of Green Bay and, let's say, go to San Francisco, I believe San Francisco would give him a 4-year deal.
Well, why not? At his age, we saw what Brady did. He's in great shape. Why wouldn't you?
I would think they would, and I would think that there's going to be other teams that are big game hunting, if you will. Tampa Bay, if Tom Brady decides – this would be really interesting. If Tom Brady goes to Jason Licht and he says, hey, Jason, or Light, however you say it, Jason, look, man, I'm done here. I want to go home and I want to go play in San Francisco for a year or two. And Jason, would have to let him out of his contract because he still has 1 year left with Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay would have to get some sort of compensation from, let's say, I'm talking about San Francisco, and it's all because I could see either one of those two guys trying to get to San Francisco, but the problem is that they're coming from teams within the same conference.
Yeah.
And this last, I saw an article yesterday that, what the Rangers need is Cal Clutterbuck. Yeah, okay. You think Lou Lamoriello is going to trade
Not a chance.
Cal Clutterbuck to the Rangers?
No.
As much as I'd love to see that, and Cal's a great guy, and he's got a lot of hockey left in his body, I mean, there's no way Lou Lamoriello is doing that. There's just no way. I mean, he's in a market where he's fighting against one of the number one teams in the league when it comes to ticket sales and ticket prices and building they play in and everything else. The last thing Lou Lamoriello wants to do is help Chris Drury and the Rangers.
And it's the same thing with the Niners and the Bucks and the Packers. Why do you want to help one another in the NFC?
Exactly. So, for Cal Clutterbuck, maybe it's Colorado he goes to. Maybe it's Anaheim or the Kings. Maybe it's the Predators. Somewhere out west. Because they do not want to be, watching him on MSG in the red, white, and blue of the Rangers. As much as I'd love to see it, as much as that is a newsworthy article to discuss, it's not happening. I just don't see it happening. That would never happen. But then again, I don't see Aaron Rodgers going to San Francisco because I can't imagine Green Bay would want to trade him there.
No, he's going to play somewhere. We know that. I still think he's staying in Green Bay, but things like last night certainly make you think, and then when you throw in everything into the mix, we'll get into Deshaun Watson too, because something happened yesterday that makes me, again, people have this notion like he's going to be on a roster this year. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. But when your attorneys are, I guess he's going to have to speak for I guess 9 cases, which we'll talk about. But the dates don't line up, and it makes everything all confusing, which is why you start with the quarterback carousel and where we're going and how things get figured out. So,
and remember, his attorney is the
Rusty Hardin, right?
He was the attorney for Roger Clemens.
Right.
So he is doing everything he can to protect his client from incriminating himself.
Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the red bell so you're notified when we have new content.